Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely crucial, the 7 rules for clicks. We're going to completely transform your visual packaging, taking your graphics from cluttered, confusing messes into irresistible, click-generating magnets using the absolute best strategies for 2026. If you've ever struggled to get people to actually stop scrolling and pay attention to your content, you are in exactly the right place.
Picture this for a second. You know how it goes. You spend 10 grueling hours, honestly maybe even way more than that, perfecting an amazing piece of content. You're doing the research, pouring your heart into the information, and obsessing over the editing. You're building something of genuine, incredible value.
But then, bam, the heartbreaking reality hits. If nobody clicks your thumbnail, you get absolutely 0 views. It literally does not matter how incredible your information is, your masterpiece remains completely unseen. You've lost the audience before you even had a chance to speak to them.
So, we need to completely reframe what we're actually doing here. A thumbnail does not need to summarize everything. It's not a table of contents. Its one true purpose, its only real job, is to generate attention and spark just enough curiosity that the right viewer feels compelled to click. Your title and your content, they'll do all the heavy lifting later.
All right, let's jump right into rule number 1, one clear idea. It is so tempting, especially for beginners, to cram every little detail, every concept, and every logo into one tiny box. But here's the truth. When everything is screaming for attention, absolutely nothing wins.
Imagine a graphic overflowing with logos, laptops, huge arrows, and way too much text. It's totally exhausting to look at. Now contrast that with a super clean design, just a simple 0 to 1,000 and a rising graph. Boom. You get the idea in a split second. It's clean, it's direct, and it just works. Which brings us right to rule number 2, use less text. Remember your viewer's actual environment. Most of us are endlessly, rapidly scrolling on our phones. Slashing your word count down to just 1 to 4 punchy words is an absolute game changer for legibility and impact.
There is so much power in holding back. A massive rambling sentence is just going to get ignored when it's shrunk down. But a short, emotional phrase like 0 views, now that packs an incredible punch. Let your title hold the detailed information. Your visual needs to deliver the hook.
Okay, rule number 3, create a visual story. Simply showing what the topic is about just doesn't cut it anymore. You have to weave in a mini narrative to build real intrigue. It's not just about the what, it's about what actually happens.
Instead of a generic smiling creator, imagine a genuinely shocked face right next to a crashing graph. It instinctively forces the viewer to stop and ask, wait, what happened here? And that question right there, that is the exact spark of undeniable curiosity that leads directly to a click. Moving on to rule number 4, use emotion. We humans are literally hardwired to look at faces. But here is the catch. You can't just slap a random, over-the-top, wide-eyed reaction face on everything if it doesn't actually fit the vibe of what you're talking about. The emotion needs to perfectly mirror the specific experience you're promising. Testing 50 new AI tools, you'd probably show genuine surprise. Lost a huge chunk of your traffic? Show frustration. Finally hit a massive milestone? Pure celebration. The viewer has to immediately feel that an authentic experience took place.
Rule number 5 is title and thumbnail synergy. Think of these elements as 2 distinct pieces of the exact same puzzle. They are a team. If they're just repeating each other word for word, you are totally wasting valuable real estate.
Seriously, never duplicate your text. It's such a missed opportunity. Instead, let your title provide the factual context, like the specific year, while the visual graphic serves as that punchy, emotional hook. Each piece adds something valuable that the other doesn't.
All right, rule number 6, use contrast. Remember, in a scrolling feed, you're competing with dozens of other images all at once. To win that battle, your most important elements have to boldly stand out. If your graphic is visually flat, it essentially just blends in and disappears.
You really don't need 20 crazy visual effects to pull this off. Just leaning into one strong contrasting concept, like pairing a very dark background with a brightly lit subject, or showing a really clear before and after transformation, is way more effective than layering on a dozen messy, confusing edits. And here is our 7th and final core rule, which honestly might be the most forgotten one of all. Always design for mobile.
You might be designing on a massive, beautiful monitor, but you absolutely have to test your graphics for the tiny smartphone screens where your audience actually lives.
So try this. Before you finalize anything, zoom your canvas way out. When it's shrunk down to the size of a postage stamp, can you still easily identify the main subject, the emotion, the text, and the story? If the answer to any of those is no, you have way too much going on and you absolutely need to simplify.
Now that we have the 7 rules for clicks firmly in place, let's talk about the ultimate pre-published checklist. I like to call this the 10-second thumbnail test. It acts as a crucible for your design, making sure it actually holds up to real-world scrolling.
Stare at your screen for exactly 10 seconds. Is the idea crystal clear? Does it make sense even without reading the title? Is the text highly readable when it's tiny? Is the focal point strong? And most importantly, does it make you curious? If your eye is just bouncing around and you don't know what to look at first, you've got a problem to fix.
So, what happens when it fails the test? How do we actually fix a broken asset without throwing our hands up and completely starting from scratch? Well, it's actually a lot easier than you think if you follow a structured approach.
Just follow these 5 simple stages. Strip away the extra clutter. Pick just one focal point. Slash that word count. Crank up the visual contrast. And finally, inject a reason for the viewer to be curious. You're basically just stripping away the noise to reveal a highly clickable, simplified design underneath.
Let's wrap this explainer up by zooming out and looking at the big picture. We really need to see how this visual packaging fits into the ultimate ecosystem for growth, because getting the click, that's just one piece of the puzzle.
A fantastic graphic definitely can't save a terrible topic or bad content. But when you map this linear formula out perfectly, starting with an amazing topic, packaging it with a strong title and a clear graphic to secure that click, and then actually delivering on your promise with great content, you create a seamless, incredibly satisfying journey for the viewer. So here is what I want you to take away from this explainer today. Stop asking how to make your graphics look cooler or prettier. Instead, ask yourself this one provocative question every single time you sit down to design. How will you make your next creation absolutely impossible for your target viewer to ignore?